Hello friends, so this is the second section of our Android Studio tutorial. Here I'll tell you what is Android Studio and why we use it, and it's a comparison with Eclipse, why it's better than Eclipse. So first thing is that, so this is the ID which you can see over here. This is the Android Studio ID, how it looks like. So it is the official integrated development environment for Android platform, and it was announced on May 16, 2013 at Google I/O conference, and it is freely available under the Apache license 2.0, and till now it is the fastest tools for building apps on every type of Android devices. To give some of its historical data, it was first early access preview stage starting from version 0.1 in May 2013, then a beta stage was launched, that was version 0.8, which was released in June 2014. The first stable build was released in December 2014 and starting from version 1.0. It is freely available, so which I'll tell you in the next slides. It is freely available for download from developer.android.com site. Now next thing is that why we use Android Studio. What is the basic purpose? Why we need it? So at present, more than 76.6% of the smartphones, including HTC, LG and Samsung models, use Android as their operating system, and we are expecting that Android will be in smartwatches, laptops, cars very soon. So instead of that, a lot of developers want to get associated with the Android application development because this is the future and because of its incredible growth. So that is why it's very much in required for the future coming generations and for the development. Now I'll tell you something like why Android Studio is better than Eclipse, because earlier the development used to happen in Eclipse. Now some people are using Eclipse for development, but I'll tell you why it is always better to move to Android Studio for development. So Android Studio is like a step ahead of Eclipse. I'll tell you some of its features which are available in Studio but were not present in Eclipse. First is the Gradle integration. So what do you mean by Gradle integration? So I'll tell you here. So here if you can see, we have in Studio, if I go over here, you can see a Gradle folder is built. So this Gradle is basically a build system which is integrated, and it is basically building your code. So once I'll tell you in more details like how this Gradle is being used, how you can build your code, you'll get to understand better. But this Gradle system was not present in Eclipse. Next is the advanced code completion. So we usually find that code completion is really better on Android Studio as compared to Eclipse. And with time, like it will spend more time you spend as a programmer grinding out the code, the more value the code completion is. Next is the user interface. So this is the user interface. As you can see, it's the tools and the menu items in Android Studio tend to get where it is little more promptly and effortlessly than their counterparts in Eclipse. So if you can see the code, the project structure and everything has been segregated and in a proper format. So you can see over here there is a project area, there is a structure area, which anyways I'll cover in the next sections, like why we use all these sections. But it is very easy as compared to Eclipse, and the most important thing is that Android Studio was purposely built for Android, while Eclipse was a all built to all purpose IDE that can be used with any language and platform, but Android Studio was particularly for Android. So, and one more thing what you have to remember is that from 2015 onwards, Google will no longer support and develop Eclipse based Android developer tools. So you have to start moving your code to Studio, and it's always better you develop your code in Android Studio, because Android Studio is the only fully supported IDE for the Android development till now. Next is the something like organization of project, which I told you. So when you want to work on many projects, like here this is the project area, and suppose here I have one project, my application, this is my first project, and if I want to add many projects over here in Eclipse, what you have to do, you have to merge them in a workspace, and then in an attempt to switch to a different workspace, you have to choose the path. Then after that the Eclipse restarts, and this always looked awkward. But in Android Studio, what you can do, it uses a module to manage and organize your code. Modules have their own Gradle build files, which means it can state their own dependencies. Like here I have made, this is my first project, suppose, so it has its own Gradle file, so it will have its own dependency. We don't need to switch the workspace every time, and the studio will not restart as it used to happen in Eclipse. Next is the stability, system stability. So Eclipse was a simple Java based software and a larger IDE in comparison with Android Studio. So it requires, anyways, because it's a heavy application, so it requires a higher amount of RAM space with a high CPU speed to function properly, and failure to meet this criteria causes the Eclipse crashing and getting unresponsive, which was a very a disadvantage of Eclipse. On the other hand, Android Studio is now released with a very less bugs and provides some more stable performance and then Eclipse, and the system needs are lower too. So Android Studio, you can say, is very quick, while you need 1 or 2 minutes for building the release version of the complex project in Eclipse, but you can make the same project within 30 seconds in Android Studio. That is the biggest feature. Last but not the least is the drag and drop feature. So Android Studio, as you can see, you can just drag and drop your assets, like which you cannot do in Eclipse, but this doesn't matter a lot for the coders who are not very much concerned regarding the visual elements of this application. So it's a new feature in Android Studio anyways, which was not present, but its state of being absent in Eclipse doesn't matter greatly. So these are all the important features of Android Studio, and next section will discuss about the softwares which are required for Android Studio installation. So thank you and all the best for the next section.